Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the weekly update for the Historical Baseball Project 1993 season. My name is Dave Little, and we are coming to you from the Dave Cave with highlights from the Cincinnati Reds and the Texas Rangers replay for 1993. And we're going to try something a little different. We're still experimenting with the format here. Instead of putting all the standings and stats on PowerPoint, we are going to try a very handy tool in Strat-O-Matic called the Web Builder. So we will show you what the Web Builder looks like. This is the National League standings for the end of the day on May the 15th. So this is before the game action we will present later. This is where we started at the beginning of the 2-week period, May 16 through 31. And my Cincinnati Reds are hanging in there, 20-18, in the middle of the pack in the West. And San Francisco on top of things over here. And I can actually pull up the old records and look at those for the 93 season. At this point in the real season, San Francisco was 23-14, so they are right on top of where they just one game ahead of their actual pace in the regular season. Los Angeles 23-14, they are 8 games ahead of their pace. The Reds at 20-18 were actually on pace with, they're a little ahead of their pace from the previous season. It's a little goofed up now on the standings page on the Strat game because I played some other games. But Atlanta is right on target. And the bottom dwellers, actually Houston is a bit disappointing. They were 21-14 at this point in the regular season. And on top of things in the East, it is the Montreal Expos. A little bit ahead of their pace in the regular season, followed by Philadelphia, who is actually behind the pace. They were 27-11 coming out of the gate in the National League 1993 season. So they're a couple of ticks behind. And everybody else is bringing up the rear just as they did in the 1993 season. We can also take a look at the league leaders on the main page here. Tim Belcher, very impressive start for the Reds with a leading ERA of 0.86. And Jeff Reardon doing some stellar work with 10 saves for the Reds. The big winner so far is Dennis Martinez. Greg Maddux, we will see him this week in action against the Reds. Your batting leader, Jim Eisenreich, he is on top of the league at 393, but he won't stay there because he is going to run out of at-bats. He didn't have enough at-bats in the 1993 season to qualify for the batting title, so his stay at the top of the batting average here will be short-lived. The HBP allows 125% of plate appearances compared to a player's regular season, which is generous, but a guy like Eisenreich, who only played about half the season, isn't going to be able to dominate the batting title for an entire run in 1993. Ron Gant leads the league with 12 home runs, along with Phil Plantier, Fred McGriff, and Barry Bonds. And Bonds on top with 33 RBIs. Let's look at the statistics for the Reds. See if I can make this a little bigger. I cannot make this, can't make this, yeah, I can make this bigger. We'll take a look first at the batting. Kevin Mitchell, 376, leads the Reds. Coming in with 4 home runs and 19 RBIs. He is having a stellar performance here the first 6 weeks of the season. Some disappointing performances from Barry Larkin, Chris Sabo, and Reggie Sanders down here in the lower 200 range. The Reds need to pick it up on the offensive side if they are going to keep pace with the division leaders. And in terms of the pitching performances, we got a bunch of guys on top here that have not pitched, so we'll switch that over to innings pitched. Rijo, 3-3 with a 3.32 ERA. Like to see a better one-loss record, but he's doing well. And the surprising Tim Pugh coming in at 4-2. Belcher 4-1 with that gaudy 0.86 ERA, and of course Jeff Reardon with 10 saves and a 2.95 ERA. A few rough spots in the bullpen, and that will, I'm sure, come back to haunt this team before the end of the season. So that is your American League, your National League recap statistically. In the National League, my Texas Rangers are on the heels of the Chicago White Sox for the division lead here in the middle of May, and they are looking strong. It's going to be a two-team dogfight throughout the year. And in the 1993 regular season, it was the White Sox who won the division with 94 wins, and the Rangers were 6 games back with 86 wins. So the top two teams in the West are where they need to be. And in the East, it was the Toronto Blue Jays who won the East by 7 games, and yet they are just lagging around with the at the 500 mark. Baltimore far outperforming expectations at 22-12. They would go on to win 85 games in that season and finish tied for 3rd in the division behind the Blue Jays and the Yankees. League leaders, Juan Gonzalez is tearing it up. 17 home runs, leads the league. 37 RBIs. He is right there. Also a surprise is Mark McGwire leading the league with a 382 batting average. Alex Fernandez, we saw him last week, leads the league with a 0.94 ERA. Not going to see many Rangers pitchers in any of these numbers, as their pitching staff was not that solid to begin with. And as we know, both Kevin Brown and Kenny Rogers have gotten off to a very slow start in our Strat replay. Let's take a look at the Texas statistics. Rafael Palmeiro leads the team with a 329 batting average. And of course, Gonzalez just on fire. 320, 17 home runs, 37 RBIs, among the league leaders in those categories. Dean Palmer putting up some good power numbers, 10 home runs, 28 RBI, and but that low batting average. We need more from Pudge. We need more from Julio Franco. And from the pitching standpoint, we'll sort this by innings pitched. Roger Pavlik, what else can be said? He is tearing it up at 4-1, 3.34 ERA, 59 2/3 innings, including that sensational no-hitter in the month of April. Kenny Rogers and Kevin Brown are both lagging with ERAs above 5, and in Rogers' case, he is above 6. Charlie Liebrandt also pitching well with a 3.50 ERA, although the wins and losses do not play that out. And Tom Henke with 6 saves has been helping out on the back end of the bullpen. All right, with that, we will go to action from the month of May, the last 2 weeks of May. And we will start with the box scores from the Cincinnati Reds. Let's pull those up. Where did my box scores go? My box scores are right here. And let's shrink those down to half size on the screen. And you can see that into town to start the month of, to start the last 2 weeks of May, came the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves pounded the Reds in game 1, but the Reds would come back to win 5 in a row and go 5-1 for the month. Tom Glavine made the Reds look silly in the May 25th game, the first game of the series. As I have my highlights over here, it was Glavine who went the distance, gave up only 4 hits, and the Braves ran away with that one 10-1. Ron Gant with a home run, Terry Pendleton 3 RBI for the Braves in the opening night victory. May 26th was a much ballyhooed pitching matchup between two of the league's ERA leaders in Greg Maddux and Tim Belcher. And it was Belcher who shut down Atlanta to pick up the victory. Belcher went 7 1/3 innings, only giving up 1 run on 3 hits while striking out 6. The only offense that the Braves could muster was a solo home run by league leader Ron Gant. The Reds scored single runs in the first and second innings, including a solo homer by Joe Oliver. In the 5th inning, Reggie Sanders scored on a wild pitch to make it 3-1, and the Reds bullpen shut down Atlanta the rest of the way. Clutch out, a key point in that game was when Bobby Ayala came on in the 8th to strike out Dave Justice to end an Atlanta threat. Ayala with a nice little, what we used to call a backwards lefty card, a right-hander who can shut down left-handed batters. And then Jeff Reardon came on to save it in the 9th. In the rubber game of the series, it was a dramatic win for the Reds, 3-2 in walk-off fashion. Jose Rijo and John Smoltz dueled into the night. Both men pitched well. Rijo actually homered off of Smoltz in the 5th inning to give the Reds the lead. Dave Justice hit a sacrifice fly in the top of the 8th to tie it. But Rijo hung in for the 8th and 9th innings, and the Reds came to the plate in the bottom of the 9th against Kent Merker. And with 1 out, Joe Oliver doubled home Bip Roberts with the game winner. Rijo goes the complete game, picks up the win, 4 hits and 2 runs, 1 earned, while striking out 7 for the Reds. So the Reds were riding high after a 2-of-3 series win over the Braves. And into town came the Philadelphia Phillies. And the Reds would go on to sweep the Phillies in 2 very close games to start things off, both 11 innings, the first 2 games. The Reds took the first game of the series 5-3 in 11 innings on a walk-off 2-out, 2-run homer down the left field line by Barry Larkin off of David West to give the Phillies the win in Game 1. Larry Anderson and Jeff Reardon dueled in that one deep into the extra innings. And very solid win for the Reds in the opening game of the series. In Game 2, another 11-inning matchup, another walk-off win for the Reds. And again, it was Barry Larkin who keyed the rally in the 11th, leading off with a single off of Mitch Williams, stealing second and scoring on a double by Roberto Kelly. Rijo homered again in this game. He homered in both of his starts in this series, but and he pitched a full 9 innings, but came out in the 10th, and it was the bullpen win going to Jerry Spradlin in that game, as the Reds relief corps again came up strong. Curt Schilling started that one for Philadelphia, and was pulled after 5 innings for a pinch hitter with the Phillies with the game tied at 3. And Larry Anderson gave a very solid middle relief effort for 4 innings before Mitch Williams came on and gave it up in the 11th. Final game of the series, the Reds hammered their former teammate Danny Jackson for 10 runs in only 4 2/3 innings. In addition to pitching poorly, Jackson committed 3 fielding errors for what just was an all-around embarrassing performance. Another win for Tim Pugh, as he continues to be the beneficiary of some good Reds offense, improving to 5-2 on the season, going 6 innings. Another big offensive night for Kevin Mitchell, 3 for 4 on the night, including a homer and 4 RBIs, to improve his average at the end of May to .373. So that was what we had in store from the Reds. Let's take a look at what the Rangers were able to put together in the end of May. The Rangers started things off with a 4-game set against the Seattle Mariners. And in Game 1 of that series, Texas opened the series in style. The Rangers pounded out 15 hits against Seattle and coasted to victory. 2 runs in the first, 4 more in the 5th to jump ahead 6-1 and never looked back. Juan Gonzalez belted doubles in both those rallies, continuing his torrid hitting, and his mates contributed 3 home runs in the romp. Dean Palmer 4 for 4. Brian Bohannon cruised through 7 innings to improve to 3-1 on the season. The Rangers took Game 2 by a 4-2 tally as Pudge Rodriguez crushed a 3-run homer in the first inning, and this time Kevin Brown made it stand up, going 8 innings of 7-hit baseball, allowing only 2 runs and striking out 7. On May 19th, the Mariners were able to get a victory. 6-5, the Rangers jumped out to a 5-0 lead in this one, but Kenny Rogers couldn't hold the lead again. The Mariners pecked away at Kenny Rogers until they finally tied the game at 5 on a 2-run homer by Ken Griffey Jr. in the 6th inning. Brett Boone went deep in the 9th to give the Mariners the go-ahead and what would prove to be the winning run, and Norm Charlton came on to pick up the save for the Rangers. On May 20th, the Rangers took the 4th game of the series to take a 3-1 series victory, and they did it this time by playing small ball. They picked up 2 walks and 3 hits in the 4th inning, leading to 3 Texas runs, which was all the offense that Roger Pavlik would need to record his team-leading 5th victory. Juan Gonzalez walked twice in this game, but finished 0 for 2 at the plate to break up his 14-game hitting streak. But the Rangers fans went home happy as Texas took 3 of 4 over the Mariners. Finally, the Rangers finished off the month against the California Angels, who came to town. And yes, they were California Angels back in the day. And in the opening game of the series, Texas fell behind early as Charlie Lee Brandt allowed an unearned run in the 2nd and a home run to Chili Davis in the 4th. But the Rangers exploded for 4 runs in the 4th inning and 3 more in the 5th to jump ahead 7-3 and cruise to the opening game victory. A grand slam home run by Doug Strange gave them the 4-run rally in the 4th, and that put the Rangers ahead to stay. Rafael Palmeiro with a home run and a 2-run double by Pudge Rodriguez in the 5th inning rally as Lee Brandt pitched into the 9th to pick up his 2nd win of the season. On May 22nd, the Angels got revenge, opening up a can of whooping on Brian Bohannon, pounding out 9 hits and 7 runs over 5 innings. J.T. Snow homered twice, tripled, and drove in 5 runs. Phil Leftwich went the distance for the Angels to earn the win in his first start of the season. And in the rubber game, it was a dramatic victory for Texas to win the series. Texas was feeling good after they jumped ahead 3-0, but Kevin Brown couldn't hold the lead. And California tied the game in the 5th when Gary DiSarcina tripled in a run and scored on a sacrifice fly. Another sacrifice fly and a wild pitch by Brown in the 6th inning put California up 5-3. And leading 5-4 heading into the bottom of the 9th, leadoff batter Dean Palmer tied it with his 2nd home run of the night to make it 5-5. And with 2 on and 2 out, a routine ground ball was kicked away by Angels second baseman Torey Lovullo, and that allowed Rafael Palmeiro to dash home from second base with the game-winning run and a walk-off victory for Texas in the series finale. So that's your recap of the month for the Reds and the Rangers. Thanks everybody for tuning in. While you're here, we also had a question from a viewer last week. And the question was, what happened to the Cincinnati Reds in 1990, the year that they actually won the World Series? And let's see if I can get that up onto the screen. The Reds put up 98 wins in 1990, but the Los Angeles Dodgers came roaring from behind in September to win 100 games and knock the Reds out of playoff contention in 1990. So, Brandon Baker, that's the answer to your question. A stellar month of September by the LA Dodgers put the Reds out of the playoffs. And to be honest, the 1990 Reds, my favorite baseball team ever. They had such great chemistry. Barry Larkin, Eric Davis, the Nasty Boys, Jose Rijo. This was a fun team to watch. But statistically, that team was not dominant. They got off to the 9-0 start that year. They went wire to wire. But, there were times through the 90 season where they showed, signs of inconsistency. They peaked in the World Series. and went on to sweep the Oakland A's. First they had that unbelievable National League Championship Series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Barry Bonds, Bobby Bonilla, Doug Drabek, that fantastic Pirates team. And that was a very, very tough series. The Reds took that one, I believe it was a 4-2 series win in 1990. Then they went on to sweep Jose Canseco and Dave Stewart and Mark McGuire and Dennis Eckersley and the Bash brothers in the real-life 1990 World Series. But that team was not statistically dominant. And that team does not, in my experience, perform real well in Strat-O-Matic or other simulated statistical replays, because the Reds were all about chemistry. They were all about, getting enough of a solid start for 6 innings to turn it over to Charlton and Myers and Dibble to close things down. They took the extra base. They moved runners over. They stole bases when necessary. Larkin, Hatcher, Davis, Sabo, all those guys could run. Even Hal Morris, the first baseman who came up at the end of the year, could run a little. But that team has never performed well for me in replays, in spite of the fact that that was my favorite Cincinnati Reds team of all time. Okay, so that is the answer to the viewer question. I could go on and on, but we have been on the channel here on this recording for just over 20 minutes now, and so we will sign off. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Historical Baseball Project recap. Of course, we've got our Epic Basketball League on Friday night this week, and on Sunday, My Journey with Jesus. So there will be plenty of activity on the channel for you to check out. And if you're a fan of the Historical Baseball Project, we will be back next week with the recaps. And until then, that's our stream, and I am out of here.